All right, welcome back, everyone. We have a new panel. I have new panelists, so let's get started right away. Thank you for joining us today. We have a new panel leader as well.
Yes.
Femke, do you want to introduce yourself real quick for the people who didn't see the previous panel discussion where you were a panelist?
Yes, of course. I'm Femke Cornelissen. I'm working at Tradion, an SMB company, and I'm also a Dutch Women in Tech community leader.
Awesome. And next to you, we have Eduard.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Eduard Kels. I work for 4.net as a cloud solution architect.
My name is Zoe. I work for Avanade as a consultant, focused mainly on provisioning Microsoft solutions for modern day applications. So a little bit of a jack of all trades, actually.
Hi, and I am Daniel, and I work for Bright Blue, a cloud native company.
Awesome. And you keep the microphone for now. You had a session earlier today. What was it about? For the people that are joining us on Learn TV, they didn't see the entire stream of the entire day, right? So it would be really cool to hear from you what you talked about today.
All right, so I talked about code spaces from GitHub.
Cool.
And showed how that can enable you to develop your software way better than the old way, and you do it now in the cloud with way more power than you had before.
Yeah.
So I think it was a great session.
Great.
I'm sure everybody agrees, Danielle. So you had a session as well.
Yeah, I actually had this session before, so I saw his session as well.
Okay, good.
Which is really cool. I warmed the stage up for him.
Did it go well?
Yeah, it went well. Well, he had a little hiccup in the demo, but he actually saved himself pretty well. He was just, on the go, on the fly, solving his problems. So that was actually really cool to see how, with a bit of sweat, you actually were able to fix that in the end. And I also know about chaos a little bit because my session was actually about chaos engineering.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't know if you were there as well.
Yeah, I saw a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah,
So very nice. Yeah.
Chaos engineering for Azure Chaos Studio, which actually is a tool in public preview right now. So I was actually just showcasing a little bit of what that is and what we might be able to use it for. Of course, in 25 minutes you can't do a lot, but a little introduction just to get people hyped up to work with it themselves.
Little preview. Were there many interesting questions from the audience? Had people worked with it before, if you know?
You did see that some people knew it a little bit. I actually heard from someone who was very into the topic. The day before, he said he saw my topic and he played around with the tool himself as well.
I love that, yeah.
Yeah, and he was just trying to find out more about it and see if he could use it in his projects. He came to me after as well, and we had a very nice conversation about that. So yeah, it was a very engaged audience actually, and there were a lot of people. I was surprised at how full the room was at the time. So
It was packed.
Yeah,
it was packed.
It was packed.
That's very nice. I always like when people come to a conference, and even before, because normally it's after, right? You check out a talk and you're just like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'm excited. Let me try it out myself. But in this case, before your talk even. So that's very cool.
Yeah, so I was really surprised about that, and it's actually my first time speaking somewhere, so at a public event.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I was pleasantly surprised, I guess.
Yeah, very cool.
Great.
Awesome. I'd be interested to hear, let's start with Eduard. Sure, let's. Because we're talking about developing applications for the cloud, right? So and I feel like now is a wonderful time to be alive, to be an application developer. So if you're getting started with an application today, what are all of the opportunities that are available to you? And maybe you highlight your favorite sort of route to go, or
First of all, obviously, I think that the power that the cloud provides is enormous.
Yeah.
You used to have a couple of servers on premises, and scaling is only up until a certain level. And with the cloud, you can really unleash your software. But what comes to my mind first is that the cloud also allows for a lot more automation. So if you develop software for the cloud, your software needs to land on something.
Yeah.
And that's something we call infrastructure. But you can also automate the deployment of your infrastructure, called infrastructure as code. And I think that the cloud really starts to shine there, because that really completes your entire DevOps cycle.
Yeah. Very interesting. Do you want to add to that, Zoe?
Yeah, I do agree. Sure, I'll add to that. I can talk. Yeah, so I think infrastructure as code is a very awesome thing. I also got some questions at my session about that as well. So hey, how can I take Azure Chaos Studio and make that part automate it and make that part of my templates, deploy it on a schedule. So you see people are very interested in this because it actually takes away the manual labor of things. So we don't have to actually go to the Azure portal anymore and like click it in each other and configure it by hand. It's like we set up a template and it's click, click, boom, good, and we're done. Our application is online or replicated somewhere else. And that's just very powerful stuff. And I think that's also something that Codespaces ties into as well, right? The whole, how do you...
Yeah, so you have your repo with all your config in there. Why would you take that to your own laptop and why not run it in the actual cloud, develop in the cloud, run it in a code space, and then from the code space run your load test with one command to Azure, and then so it's all interconnected. And from one configuration, everything works. So a new team member in your team can simply join in, press play, and they're good to go. No manual setup anymore, no expensive laptops. Go with what you have, it will work.
Yeah.
And everything interconnects. I think that is an awesome time that we live in.
Yeah, no, I totally totally resonates with me. Like onboarding new team members using Codespaces, or just making it easier for people to contribute to a project and not having to set up.
If I have a very large open source project, having a Codespace ready to go with all the tools that I need installed, and then making one change, making sure that when I make the PR, everything is automated with GitHub Actions. Everything is almost automated, and everybody can make a contribution to my open source repo. Yeah. Or in my company even, a new hire in a department of the company can use inner sourcing to help the IT team. It's all possible now.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I use this all the time where I work as well, where we offer different solutions like GitHub Desktop or Codespaces or Web Editor or VS Code, and just being able to offer different solutions to different people as well. Because not everybody has the same workflow, right? And that we're able to do that now is very interesting.
In the talk of April that she did, she even talked like in the team of Microsoft, there are Macs and there are Windows
machines,
laptops, right?
Yeah.
And still people say it works on my machine, but that doesn't work anymore
like,
when I'm on a Mac
no.
and you're on a Windows laptop. And with a Codespace, we're all in the same hardware.
Yeah.
And I can get a Codespace with 64 CPUs, while my laptop doesn't have that. So.
Question.
Sure.
So, of course, you've been speaking about Codespaces in your session as well, but have you really used it in a team setting yet? Because I remember you saying during your session that you cannot use it as an individual right now. So, as you cannot use it on your own, have you actually been able to apply this in your team or a different team maybe?
Yeah, so if you were part of the beta, you can, because then it's still free for you. If you're not that lucky, you have to have a team, which can consist out of one person. But it's just a billing model for the GitHub. I did do it in a team. In the end, the team wasn't fully geared up for Codespaces yet, but we did implement the dev container, and we now have a setup going where you simply start a dev container from VS Code, have your entire setup done for you, and you can simply, well, I say simply, but there's a lot of magic in the background, but you can start working on a PR on your first day. So all the installation of tooling, everything is ready. The entire team works with the exact same editor setup. And of course, you still can have your own plugins, right? You can extend the model, but at least all the tooling that the team likes to work with all comes out of the box from one dev container with its config. So that's great.
So if I were to add my own tooling in there later on, just first, of course, I have the base that the whole team has, but I add something to it, then not per se different team members will be getting that as well, right? Or
They will get that pushed.
okay,
Yeah.
so I can't change something and have it only be for me. It's always for the team.
I mean,
plans.
if you fork the project to your own, yes, it doesn't need to be the upstream project.
Well, when you change it in a dev container, it's for the team. But you also have your individual way of working, right? So you also have your own settings and your own VS config file. And so you can adopt what the team has done and extend it with your own magic. I like certain plugins, you maybe don't. So the only thing I include in the dev container is the config that we as a team said we would use. So that is... So I did a demo with a function app. So I would like to have the function extension installed. And every member of the team needs to have that installed. So that goes in the dev container config. Same goes for Git Lens, because we all want to use extended Git stuff. But I would like to use a specific linter, right? That goes into my own config, because it's maybe not for my team.
Yeah.
Or some Azure authentication plugin stuff that I like that my team doesn't need. So I think the first thing that you have to do is sit down with your team, like, okay, how do we want to work? And how do we want to have our editor look like?
Yeah.
And that's stage one. And then continue from there.
So in a way that actually brings a whole new way of working along with it. If code spaces are adopted widely along teams, then you could say, okay, normally we'd have this definition of done coming into practice. We have how we set up our some Jira boards or something. Those things are agreed upon, but we'd also have to look at our code spaces and the dev containers and see how are we going to make this fit for deployment and having new people join our team.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that with code spaces you don't have to have huge development machines like big Windows machines or big Macs or something, and I think that again the power of the cloud shines here, because you can choose your own container and work from there. But do you think that working with code spaces contributes even more with developing for cloud solutions compared to when you have your dev environment local on a local website or on a local website on a local laptop or a desktop?
Mm-hmm.
So yes and no. What I think of the code spaces is that it makes it for everybody. So if I'm a student with not a 3K laptop, I still can run code spaces on my Chromebook, right? Which I can buy for $500. Then I can run a code space with 46 cores and 182 gigabytes of memory, which, of course. But if I am a student, I have access to code spaces because I can use GitHub Student, which I think it's insanely powerful and is maybe even part of an inclusion model that if I don't have a lot of money, I can still run large code spaces for a nice price, right? It's not cheap, but you run a very big VM code space. It's not a VM, it's a container. But it makes it accessible for everybody. And you don't have to use Azure, right? You can use AWS or whatever other vendor we have. But it integrates well with the Microsoft stack. And I think that that's great.
Yeah, I actually find that really inspiring in a way, but because you're saying a student can use this, but actually imagine this being used in a classroom. So when a teacher is teaching his or her students some new topics, that everybody can join into the same environment and they're developed, that this is actually taken maybe into schools, applied there. So even those with less budget for laptops or devices can join in on a same level and not have to deal with performance issues or not being able to do the same things as the others. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, still customize it.
So I guess they were here this morning, right? The people from Hack Your Future?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for those as well, they had to flee their country, might not even have extra resources or whatever, and a program like Hack Your Future can use this feature to set up a classroom and teach people Python and get them into data science, or get them into new fields that we need people in that we don't have yet.
Nope.
But we need to train them, and then code spaces and the related stuff around it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And if I then zoom in on the data part with Azure Data Fabric and whatever, has there been a data topic today?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for checking.
Checking. There's a very large field, and Azure also has a lot of features there, which I can link with code spaces, so I can make my Python books and whatever, and interface with Azure from a code space, which can be very powerful. They don't have GPU support yet, but they do have very large setups that you can run. And then you can run your big data set. So I see options on almost every way.
Really nice.
You did mention at one point where like hiding, there's a lot of magic behind it, and that's what I keep on hearing too. Is the fact that we're hiding so much of the magic a good thing or a bad thing?
So this is fun. So I talked about this with an engineer a few days ago, and she's actually a .NET dev, and she told me like, yeah, but I want to know how this database works, and then, so I said to her like, why do you need to know how this database works? You want to store data in an SQL database, and me as an operations person can make sure that that is available, and then I might need to have a database expert that helps out with the specifics of the database, or I simply use the Azure PaaS service, and it's there. It's magic. But for you, it's just there. You can consume it. It's fine. We were talking about serverless in this case. And with the magic being there, you simply can assume it's there. So you do. So I'm not a hardcore developer, but I would build my code to detect when it's not there, and then fail. But in all other cases, assume it's there and it's fine.
Yeah.
Can I add to this?
Yeah.
I think that there's also a lot of services that don't have that layer of abstraction. For example, for containers, you can run a container using container instances, which is very easy. I think that's the most easy way to start a container. But obviously, in Azure, you also have the Azure Kubernetes service, which is fairly complicated, and you get to dial all the knobs that you want. But then you're in this complicated phase, in this complicated stage, but now with the new service, there's a new service called Container Apps, and that one lives right in between. It runs Kubernetes for you, but it doesn't have all the complicated knobs that you need to dial and all the configuration that you need to do, which allows you to run your service in a container at a very let's say easy level, I air quote that, and then still, if you choose to want to be able to dial the knobs, you can move away from that abstraction layer and then have the Kubernetes service and get to dial the knobs again. So I don't think that for all these services the magic is happening under the hood. With some services, there's still magic that you can tweak and twist. And I think that again is very powerful, but it depends on the service that you work with. Which I think is a nice question for you, by the way. What is your favorite service in Azure?
That's an easy one. So, if the people know me, then they know that I have worked a lot with containers, and I've done that on-prem and in clouds and whatever. So my favorite service is AKS, because I dream containers. And
It's a
then
little disturbing, but yeah, continue. Yeah.
it's a work thing. But then on the other hand, then we still need to do the infrastructure part, right? So the serverless might be my next favorite because then that's abstracted. But having the discussions with people about serverless is still hard. Like not everyone sees where the serverless functions would go into play and how that then works and what they have to do. They still are used to the old school monolithic applications, and so it's still hard discussions.
Yeah.
But I would like to extend to you. What is your
Favorite service? Yeah, we'll finish the round with favorite services. I feel like that's a really nice.
That's a nice way to end it.
To end on.
I think Azure Functions, I just love that it's a small tidbit, something you build that is compact. It does one thing, straight to the point. You run it in the cloud. Yeah, pretty simple, but Azure Functions is it for me.
Right.
I think for me it's Azure Web App. I think it's the easiest service to use. You write some code, drop it on there, and it runs, which is very nice.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
I want to hear from you too.
I don't. I want to thank you for being here. I think this is enough. We need to end.
It's been enough. Yeah. It's been a long day. It's warm. Like we all need snacks and beverages. I want to thank you so much for being my co-host and you for joining us on the couch here. It was really fun to talk to you. It's been a wonderful day. I feel like today. It's been a super interesting conference to be at. Combining music, and I've seen people draw stuff, and like there's been dancing and great talks and great conversations. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank everybody on Learn TV for watching, and I hope to be able to catch up with all of the sessions that were going on today because I haven't seen many of them because I've mostly been here with my wonderful co-host Isadora as well. So thank you again. Let's get back to the conference and let's do some more working and.